Hey, Joycey, I'm early. I was just sitting here with nothing to do and thought I'd come on. We've had a full day, haven't we? Let me get everybody up on my phone. Hey, Beck. Yeah, you can always make books. You need to be out here with me. Oh, what the hell? Decline. We've got a wonderful spam mail or spam detector on in our apps that catches 90% of everything. If you want to see some good book design or technique, check out Robin McClendon, Robyn. Cheshire. Kia. Glad to see y'all walking in. I just came on early. Uh-oh. My YouTube guide. I don't want that. Did anybody else die? I do need a power cord. Try this again. Skip ads. Okay. Did y'all go dead? Mine wanted me to tap to. Okay, good. Yell at me if I miss something. Or you can text me. I might look at it. I got busy in here yesterday. Finally. And I'm still, this is my, whoops, can't see it. My Rolodex. And it may not live there, but if it doesn't live there, I'm sure not going to use it. Yeah, it's back. I always hate moving the camera because I never get it back. So I've got this about 48 inches by 30 inch piece of plywood, one of the stainless steel kitchen carts. And I've got the whole top surface. So over there, you see it. What all those tins are sitting on is one of my encaustic griddles. So it just lives there. And then on over there is where I paint oil. And over there in that corner is where I paint pastels. Wait a minute. Am I looking at it? Yeah. There's a chair there and all my pastels are there on the other side of my big easel. And then here's a cabinet that I have all my stuff in. That's an umbrella. Okay, that's as far as we go that way. Whoops. I bet I made you seasick that time. My little nest. All right. But at least I don't have to have a bed in here. I guess I put 2 chairs together. I even cleaned out the pathway in the floor so I don't have to break my neck standing, getting over something. Yeah, the one chair is where I sit to do pastels. And I need to do some. Yeah, the blue chair and the wine chair are I'm looking at right in front of me, and then I'm sitting in the red chair with arms on it that goes up and down, which works for my countertop. And then right beside me, let's see if I can show you that. Lights, lights, everywhere lights. That's the stainless steel shelf that sits right to my right. And I've got to get it organized. I'm not using it like I should. There's my rubber stamps. And on up there are the box full of things for still life, pastel set boxes, and paintings that are protected and everything. So there you go. That's my home. Tighten that down a little bit. See, we come early, y'all get a quick tour. A tour. I put up another umbrella. This one is lined in gold. I'm trying to get better light in here. It doesn't look too bad though. Got a dark spot right there. Yeah, I love that industrial shelving, but you know what? I've kind of figured out you waste a lot of space because the top 6 inches a lot of times is just air. I guess the key there would be to get rid of some stuff. And then right behind me, I have a double closet. Hey, CB. Yo, yo, the lurkers. Say hello, and then we'll leave you alone. We won't bother you anymore. I guess I should leave that until we get going. I even put white paper on my work surface. That means the Wixter's feeling good. It's a mental thing, not a physical thing. Hey, Jules, glad you could make it, sweetie. It looks like a movie studio in here. Where's the star? It was a busy afternoon. I kept getting notices about stuff going on. So I'm glad that y'all made the choice to be here. I hope Nancy comes in. I typed her name right at the front of the stream. Artsy Wannabe Nancy is the one who requested carrot figures today, which then I said, I know who started it. It's Carol Cooper. She's a local college professor in watercolor. But then I did some research just a little while ago, and I don't think she did start it. Bob Burridge uses it a lot. But she wrote this book in 2004, so I learned it from her around 2002 or 3. So who knows? But it's handy to know. Or at least know where to go to find it. I've got 3 levels of seeing in my glasses, none of which work well with computer screen. So then I thought, oh, wait, I've got some prescription readers for astigmatism, and they do help. So if I take off those glasses, put these on, now I've got 4 options of not seeing, plus my eyes. I think I need a few more choices. Damn it. Got a vlog. I don't doubt it, Joycey. But you know what? If you can learn to paint them in just a second or two, then you don't have to look for that lost stamp. Sometimes the shortcuts to stuff take longer than the thing itself. Still not totally lined up. I like everything to be square in my world, and it's not. And it drives me crazy. It's almost time. I welcome any requests that y'all have, because I've forgotten more than I'll ever remember. And it also doesn't hurt me to practice either. And we're going to wing it. I know some of y'all were in Lena's stream where we were talking about women painters, female painters in the Renaissance period. And I mentioned Artemisia. I was so impressed with her story that I had to get this book. And it'll make your hair curl. And I believe it's by Susan Vreeland. And I believe this is a story of her. It's like it's written by her. And it says, from extraordinary highs, the creation of outstandingly original paintings, patronage by the Medici, Galileo's friendship, to rape, torture by the Inquisition, struggles for professional acceptance and betrayal by the men she loved. Artemisia was a bold and brilliant woman who lived as she wanted and paid a high price. Anyway, it's worth a read. It's been out forever. Gosh, it's been out long enough. The paper's even turning. Let's see. 2002. It's almost antique. The in addition to all the fighting and getting the right to learn how to paint, because back in those days you had to apprentice with a bigger artist and learn to mix their paint, learn to clean their brushes, and all the grunt work that goes along with painting, especially in the old days where you had to grind the pigment before you could make it for the day. In addition to all that stuff, she persevered and became a better artist than her father. And then I think she was married to a man who was also an artist. But they abused her and took her paintings for their own. They did everything they could. And she was raped at one time as a means of controlling her. Now, this part just sends chills up my back. In the courtroom where she filed the charges, they made her go through a vaginal examination in the courtroom. So even though women have some trouble now, I think things have improved. Anyway, it's a good read. So I will put Miss Artemisia up. Hey, Teresa. I've got all kinds of little tidbits of information, but you got to watch me because sometimes I'm wrong. I don't do it on purpose. Okay, let's move on. Nancy Artsy Wannabe is the one who said, could you talk about some people? You had some on the back of that thing I showed last Thursday. And this is my practicing of strange people. And then that led to this morning I woke up and went straight to this book. Now, that tells you how organized I used to be. I've got my important watercolor books in the library, is what we call it. It's about a 4-foot section behind our sofa. And my signed books and people I know books. And so anyway, I went right to that. And then I got to thinking, okay, who's carrot people? So I did some research and remembered a guy named, now this is good for you to look up, Milford, Milford, Zornes, Zornes. 1950s, 60s. I think he was born in 28. He passed away in 2008. He did wonderful drawings of people like this. And one of my mentors, a lady who taught me what she had been taught by others, when she was breaking her house down, she allowed me to buy a full sheet watercolor of something like this that he did. And, you know, people like him who painted he was a member of the California Impressionists, which was a group of artists in his age range that painted up and down the coast and made watercolor famous. But anyway, there's one. And this is another figure of his. And it just shows so much movement. It's not a perfect person. It wasn't intended to be. But I just think that's fascinating. So Milford Zornes. He has an older book, and I don't have a copy of it because I didn't learn anything about him until I met Pat. So Carol Cooper is the author of this book. It was a small series that Northlight publication, Northlight Books, did in 2000, 2002. It's called No Experience Required was the series. Golly, my throat's bunged out. Let's see, this book came out in 2004. Carol is this way. Okay. Is a professor at our community college in watercolor and art. She's another one of those who's done watercolor so long that, to her, what's the problem? In the front, as with all Northlight books, you get a bunch of information that I always read it because this particular artist might have something different to say or a different way of saying it that might click with me or resonate with me. And then after a while, those things all collect and you develop your own voice. But I always read this stuff in the middle because it tells an awful lot about what works for them. And she talks about her brushes. I didn't think I'd need my glasses, but I do. She tells you about words to know and quick tips. Good brushes snap back into their original shape after wetting. Don't let brushes soak in water for a long time. Clean your brushes with cool tap water. Flick the excess water off, and you can help them dry by wiping with a cloth. And I leave mine laying flat until they dry, so I don't soak water up into the ferrule. I don't remember this one. Avoid touching the hairs with your fingers to prevent the natural oils in your hands from getting onto the brush hairs. And then store them upright. If y'all need me now, holler. Wow, crazy. And Josie said, be back. Okay. She is actually showing, I believe this is praying. I think this oval one for sure is. But she's showing this as a form of paint. And she is, or was then, a spokesperson for Cheap Joe's. That was where I first learned about Cheap Joe's watercolor. And quick tip, when using tube paints, revive paint that is dried in the wells by spritzing water. This will save your brush tips from wear. If your paints appear to be crumbling in the well, a drop of gum arabic or glycerin with a spritz of water can help rejuvenate them. Ideally, it is best to use fresh paint each time you paint. Words to know, gouache is an opaque watercolor comprised of the same ingredients as regular watercolor paint, except it contains, now this is not always, she says contains a chalky substance that makes it opaque. Gouache has a stronger covering ability than regular watercolor because of its opacity. Your better brands like Holbein, M. Graham, Da Vinci, Sennelier, all those better brands, don't use a chalk filler in their gouache. What they do is they grind the pigment load bigger. So I think I said this the other day. You go from a microscopic grain of pigment that won't dissolve. It just looks like on your paper it does. And that would be watercolor. Same pigment for either one. And then for gouache, they do a bigger pigment particle. And what happens is the light can go around the itty bitty particles, which makes it look transparent. And on the bigger particles, the light can't go all the way through them because they collect and make it where you can't see through it. So that's all I know about that. Painting with pans. She tells you about that. There's one of the few books, professional books, that I'll see a student quality paint in there. She talks about her palette and how to put your colors in the same spot every time you load your palette. So you begin to be able to not think about where your yellows or your warms and cools are. And then she gives you a shopping list of miscellaneous stuff that you need. It does, Carol, RCB. Hey, Debbie. If you ask 100 people, you'll get 100 different responses. But for the most part, I see professional artists using tube paint because they're working. When you're doing journaling and working in mixed media, you're working on a small piece of paper. When these people demonstrate, they're on a half sheet of watercolor paper or a full sheet in some cases. And so for that, you have to have more fresh paint than you'll ever get out of a pan. You'd be there all day with a pan trying to get it all wet. And I told you the other day that Charles Reed always squeezes out fresh paint in the morning before he goes out. And then that will help constitute the paint from yesterday. So that's about the only time I've ever seen people use a pan is when they're outside. We talk about the color wheel. Hey, Lena. Y'all missed my Passion of Artemisia book by Susan Breland. And it's a novel written in first person. But it's based on what we know about her from facts. When she goes into color characteristics, and this is very important when you get to the point that you want to know why certain colors do certain things. She talks about granulation, transparency, opacity, permanence, and we all skirt around these things. So you're familiar with a lot of these. One of the big tips that I learned early on from Charles Reed was that you clean your brush off in your Dunkin' water. And then you pour your brush out of the water and you shake it real hard down to your side. It doesn't hurt anything because it's just water. And then you go to your palette and pick up paint and go to the paper. So it's wet, shake, paint, paper. You can do it with a rag, but I like his method. Anyway, Carol's saying the same thing here. Water, sponge, paint, paper. Okay. Controlling the water in your brush is one of the most important things about watercolor. Some people paint flat, and some people paint at a 45-degree angle. And I've seen some professionals paint at a 90-degree angle. Just depends on your style and how much you want to utilize the bead of paint and water that forms at the bottom of your shapes. Damn it. I don't paint flat very often because I was talking with Lena yesterday. If you're painting flat, you are skewing your view of your painting because you're looking at it as not as parallel to the board, but you're painting raised about like that. So what happens is if you're painting a standing figure, the butt of that figure is going to look bigger to you because that's the way you're viewing it. And then the body and the head will get smaller. And that is a perspective problem. It causes foreshortening, F-O-R-E shortening. I don't know why that word. The other thing I know about that is that Leonardo, when he was painting David, took that theory into consideration when he was carving that statue. He intentionally made the butt area, the butt and the legs, smaller than normal and made the shoulders and head bigger than normal because it was going to be viewed from down on ground level. You're going to be looking right at his feet, and that would compensate for the foreshortening that happens. Okay, there's your art tip for the day. And I do catch myself painting flat. And with a journal, that's kind of what you have to do. So just be aware of it. And if you're painting a face, trust me, it will be distorted if you paint it something like this flat. It will not be in drawing. I don't care how much you think you can control it. And she goes into 5 of the most basic watercolor techniques, and there are more, there are hundreds, but the basic ones. Remember, this is for no experience required. She's gotten you practicing washes, which we don't use that kind of stuff much in journaling and playing, and then combining techniques, painting fundamentals. There she's talking about how to pick what you want to paint, working from reference photos, where to paint. She is an excellent plein air painter, as well as a studio painter. I've done both. It's an awful lot of trouble to paint outside, especially if you're in a foreign country, because you just can't pull the car over to the side of the road and paint. You've got to walk through cobblestone streets and all that stuff to get to the beautiful courtyards. Design basics, which is good. Forms, that's what turns a 2-dimensional shape into a 3-dimensional ball. And that's something that I cover in detail in my class, because it's important to know what makes that curve, what makes that ball be a ball. And when you understand that, then you go on to color and you understand how warm and cool affects that. So that's the value of that. She's drawing squares and columns. And here she's combining 2 or 3 different shapes for painting. Landscapes, simple ones, reflections and shadows. This is a good one. This is basic foliage. Trees are pretty much formulaic, like an oak tree kind of has a shape, and an evergreen has a shape, and a cypress has a shape. I studied with a guy that I wasn't too impressed with. His name is Tony Couch. And he was one of the older generation's traveling workshop instructors, I call them. And then when they went, they'd sell their VHS tapes and their books if they had them, and their paintings and all that. That was how they made a living. But he just called them, okay, now paint a palm tree shape, paint a cypress shape, and not unlike Bob Ross, but it kind of works. But if you understand the basic shape, then you can paint the one that you see outside. That's something that landscape painting is. I haven't developed mine all the way yet. Let me see what y'all are saying. Oh, where at, Rejoicey? I'll go back. Golly, I didn't have a frog when I came in here. It is a good book, and it's practical. It's not a whole bunch of stuff that you won't use. Project books are great, but I prefer books that teach you how to get your own results, so that you aren't dependent on her book to make a seascape at that point, because you know the basics of it. Joycey? Oh, not me? Oh, okay. All right, never mind. And we move into flowers. Flower pots. Gotta have something to put those flowers in. I did a workshop with Carol one time. Actually, Randy and I both did. He's an artist too, but he's one of those disgusting artists that never plans anything. He just sits down and does it. Anyway, we did stuff like that. She was so much fun. And you can tell this book is far from worn out. So to me, this is valuable information. Here's a good example of what Lena was talking about this morning. This is something I was taught. Now, take it or leave it. If you walk into a gallery and see a painting across the room, the first thing that's going to capture your attention is the value, the dark and the light of the value. The second thing is the composition, like where the center of interest falls, because that's what you're going to see from a distance. You're going to see a color is all one color, because from a distance, it kind of, again, shapes out into dark and light. As you get closer to that painting, you're going to start seeing the nuance. And the nuance in this jar right here is where she used, it looks like Viridian, ultramarine, alizarin crimson, and maybe that yellow. She may be using raw sienna. She's using quinacridone gold, which is a transparent. I don't use yellow ochre at all in my palette for that reason. There are too many other ones that are pretty and transparent. But you can see the different colors, but they're the same value. They're the same darkness. So that a painting theoretically has interest from across the room, and it has interest when you walk up close. And that's something that watercolor can give you. Here's another example in the same painting. Ultramarine and looks like alizarin. It's got some yellow in it, so it's got some quinacridone in it too. Questions? Yep, it's an excellent book. Because it speaks your language. It speaks to, yeah, I get it, but how can I do that without you? Because you have 15 steps painting that painting. And here you've got 3 or 4. So it makes it easier for you to learn the process. I don't want, as a teacher, I don't want you to need me every time you sit down to paint. I don't want to like you that much, okay? But I want to teach you to understand it so that you can paint on your own. That's my job. Very simple to follow, 4 or 5 steps and she's done. Here's another great example of different colors. And that is probably painted wet into wet. In other words, wet paper, and she just dropped in color and let the color blend and mix and do whatever it's going to do. It's like Lena said this morning, you can't get some of these colors by mixing it on your palette and putting it in. And then she gives you a little bit on the simple face. And this method that she's doing is similar to what I was talking about last week with my value studies. Paint everything that's not white, your next color, your lightest color. And then your second pass, you come in and do it with your medium color. Leave the light and the white alone. And then you come back in at the end and put your dark color, leaving the other 3 alone. And that's kind of what she's just demonstrating here without the extras. Makes it a whole lot easier to save the white. I don't like using masking fluid because it creates more trouble for me than it solves. Let's see what. Yeah, she's painting around her shape. She's not using masking fluid. Now this is for traditional watercolor, so you know, if you can use some of it in your journals and that kind of painting. Here's an archway, kind of like Lena was painting this morning. And that's more colorful. It's not realistic. Carol tends to be a little more abstract in her work. Here's another example. You got some light patches in there, but overall. So this would be a darker, maybe about a value 7. And this one over here would probably be a value 5. And over here, you've got a value 4 and a 7 or 8. Yellow only goes so dark. Yellow only goes to a level 4 or 5. And there's nothing darker than that. Now you can go like Lena did this morning with raw sienna or quinacridone gold, and you can pass that for yellow. And here she's doing some abstracty stuff where we would use a stencil. I don't know what she did. Stamping, stenciling, dragging. Everything has a place in every style. Painting salt, painting with alcohol. I'll be damned. I didn't know I learned that under her. Okay. And this reminds me of Jean Haynes' style. Spattering. Plastic wrap is a great technique. The only problem with it is you need to have 2 or 3 paintings going at once because you have to wait overnight for that to dry. And I always have to peek. This is another thing that she uses a lot. And you drag the paint down and just leave all this open. I don't know if she's doing... Okay, she's doing it on dry paper. Okay, so she's not doing it wet and wet. She's doing it wet on dry. She talks about dry brushing, and that's where the paint and or the paper are just about empty or dry, and you can make a mark, splay your brush, and it will look like you've painted like a wood texture. And here are some of her people. I missed that page. I must have turned to it once. It's what started this conversation. Here we go. She just had a single page on this. Hi, Christy. So this is pretty much a carrot person with a head, with an oval on top. And then from there, you can add another leg or add arms. So without further ado, I guess I need to leave the book open because I'm practiced enough, but not enough to make it my own. So I got to have somebody to look at it. Bob Burridge has a video on carrot people. These are pitiful. I suspect that I was looking at Charles Reed's, and they're a little bit more, I don't know, complicated maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Let's move that completely out of the way. I'm almost out of 90-pound bee paper. Look! White surface. Do I get a prize? Is Kimberly here? Oh, come on. No prize. Darn it. I've got out my triangle brush. This has a triangle ferrule on it. It's made by Silver Brush, you know, black silvers. And the bristles on one flat side are cut shorter and they taper up to the back. It's wonderful for flowers and, you know, kind of like Donna Dewberry one-stroke things. There's nothing wrong with that. And I've got 4 bottles of water here. Not that I need them, but I filled up a bigger pottery and it was taking up too much room. So there you have it. Here's my saucer from the other day. So we're going to make a carrot shape. And we're going to put a head on it. And then we're going to see if I made it a real carrot shape. It would have bigger shoulders. Halfway point between the head and the feet is where the belly button is, and that is the center of the figure. So you want to keep that in mind as you're painting. I don't like this brush for this. Welcome to the kazoo. Okay. That brush goes away. Here's my little bitty silver. Is that it? No, this is my 8. Try not to pick your brush up any more than you have to. Head. Bigger head. Carrot people. Golly, those look pretty good on the monitor. Now I'm going to get cocky and screw it up. She added legs on some of these. So halfway is about right in there. Now, in reality, Thomas Schaller, Scheller, Charles Reed, and lots of these people will have their landscape, well, their cityscape more than likely, and so they're only needing little people. Even smaller than that. And then you can do one behind. Let's get a different color. Now here you have to worry about, if you're going to have more than a couple, you worry about perspective. And that means organized This will work. Say your sidewalk is going to a vanishing point back here. This is the sidewalk. And your buildings are here. Then everybody's feet will be in this line, and the heads will also be on their line. So my next figure, this one was too big. My next figure would be like that. And I had too much water. And my next one will be see, we're going to pretend that greeny one comes on down onto their level. He's still too big, but you get my point. Okay, let me see what y'all are talking about. Hey, Sandra. Hey, Doc. Pink. Gail. Kate. I think I've caught everybody. Thank you, CB. You can send me a star. Christy, just get in there with his weekly Bob Blasts, and you can learn an awful lot. Let's see. Let's take a little bit of time. She's okay. So here's a head. Let's plan. This is indigenous. So she's carrying something on her head, and she's got earrings. And so we're going to do her body shape. And then we're going to come down here for a foot. I got that one down pat. I need you to do a different shape. And then over here, she's got a little basket. And then over here, she's just showing a shirt sleeve. Practice. And here's one to the side. And she's also indigenous. She's got something on her head. And her carrot, same. And a little basket. And all the way down. And 2 feet. There you go. See, just a couple of marks is all you need. helpful if the hands aren't. You don't even really need to fill it in all the way. That was the way that Zorn did his. I'm going to pull up this Milford Zorns is who I talked about when we first started. He was a famous watercolor artist that passed away in 2008, and one of his best friends was a mentor of mine here in Bentonville. And he painted these sorts of things. Animals, chickens, they all used basically the same method. I don't think I can get that where you can see it. I can't. I may not be able to get it where I can see it. And with all the tools I've got around here, I'll put it back on this tool. Sorry y'all can't see it, but if you'll search for him and then go to images, you'll find these pictures. His are a little more detailed. He's also mixing color a little bit more when he has time. No, I'm not going to go stand up. You know better than that. I actually think his are a little more believable. And then she's holding on to the kid. And then a cast shadow is always important. Isn't that cool? Let's see if we can do a horse. I've got too much water because I'm not following my own rules. I'll go back to horsey. Don't laugh at my horse. And he needs a hat. And grass. Oh, Milford, Milfordzornes. Zorns. Hi, Lainey. That's not too shabby a horse. Now, come on. This is my little cowboy. All right, let's do. He painted a lot in Mexico. Pat had a house there, and he was their guest a lot. And she said he would paint on a full sheet of watercolor paper out by the beach. Didn't matter to him if the wind was blowing or not. Need darker brown. That's a darker purple. There we go. Oh, those are ears. Those are big ears. Mine have even bigger ears. And a cow. Well, that was stupid. Not stupid. Never mind. I am not stupid. There's a cow. And he's got 6 legs. Let's do a chicken. Same concept. Now here, I'm going to try to leave a little more white space here and there. Whoops, foot goes up a little bit. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I'm sure that he painted these without ever lifting his brush. And they need to be standing. I can make his foot a little longer. There you go. And his is right under here, and then hers is there. Here's a man sitting. He likes that hat like that. If you ever study contemporary artists, you'll find that they all have their favorite masters. And the news is, the teachings just kind of go from one generation to the next. As they share what they know with somebody who doesn't know anything or who is just learning. I don't know what he's sitting on, but we'll say it's ballet. Now let's give these dancers a little try. Not lifting my brush, except I got to get more paint. And I've got a brighter red over here on this other. This is almost Picasso-ish. And that looks a little bit too much like a nose. Alrighty, take a little break. You're welcome, Nancy. I'm glad you turned in. Okay, did y'all look him up? Yeah, they're kind of fun, aren't they? And here's the not too bad for my first ever time. You can keep futzing with it, but that's not the point. Hey, Tanya. I want to do that one over. See what we've been doing already, Nancy? At least I'm not afraid to let y'all see that I don't always know what I'm doing. All right, I'm gonna mix up a little bit more. You realize I'm using what was left over the other day. It's not mud, it's just color waiting to happen. That brighter red. I think he painted these while he was drunk. You see, the problem with this is I'm following him. I wouldn't have a clue how to do this on my own. I would forget. Square shape. Point. Oops. He only has one leg. I just think those are massive amounts of fun. But how long does it take? I get he probably did the same thing I'm doing. He probably practiced them over and over and over again. He kind of got a droopy hat. By Gail. You know all about that, don't you, Lena? I don't, I'm not a total fan of his style artwork. I'm talking about Milford now. It seems maybe it's a little too abstracted. Maybe my taste just isn't developed. And here's Charles. Y'all know I'm a fan. More than a fan, I worship the ground he walks on, but there's that. Now his are more multicolored. And since I pretty well mucked this up, that's almost a throwaway. I mean, not a throwaway, but a wash. I looked at, because I was playing with y'all today, I saw that some of Milford's full sheet watercolors full of all those figures sell at about $2,000 now. So I thought, whoo. He's got a little cerulean in there, which I don't have out. Muddy, I mean muddy. They're not muddy, they're neutral. For neutral colors, I'm going back up to this other pan. I wish I had a CAD red out. I'll use this. All right, let's do it again. I'm in a little bit of a hurry because you can tell how his is really done wet. The way the colors bleed together. But I know he's not painting wet into wet too. And some of his get kind of goofy. Look at that guy right there. His are two are a little more action poses. Need some blue in that. Ooh-wee. Catch myself really going fast and I need to slow down. Nobody's going to take it away from you. Waterfoot, Waterfoot. Are y'all enjoying seeing me make a fool out of myself? And see, I know Charles well enough to know that except for that blue, he's using red, yellow, and blue. He doesn't carry a green, maybe a raw sienna, which could be what he's using, but I've kind of mixed something like that up. Hold my brush too. And this is another place where having your paper tilted on an easel helps, because you can leave those beads that you then use. And that's what makes some of the colors bleed. Look, I am your father. And another little thing I'll share with you is that these men might paint people in a sports arena all afternoon and go back for 30 more days, and that's how they get their technique down. And they paint and they draw public places to get motion. People they see. Charles did a lot of nude work. And it's not sexual, it's to learn how the body moves, how the body works. Doesn't have a damn thing to do with sex. See, like here, he's sketching in a group that they all studied, that he studied in Connecticut. You remember this guy? Ooh. And I must have done that 10 times and still never got it right. Or, you know. I highly recommend books. Just before he passed away last month, maybe a year ago or so, they republished a couple of these books. And so I highly recommend them, but I will tell you on the get-go that they're difficult. It's more advanced. And of course, that's where I started. You know, no wonder I got frustrated. Drawing is a big part of his painting. And he says that by drawing, see, look at this goofy thing. By drawing, before he paints, his mind is focusing on his subject. Doesn't have to be representational or anything else. It just helps his mind calm down and focus on his painting. But see here in this case, these men are the subject of his painting. It's about the men. Lena, this morning when you were talking about your sky, one of the things Charles said to me, we were sitting in Siena, Italy, in a courtyard. And I said, but how do you know whether to do your sky first or last? You know, paint the landscape first or the buildings first and then do the sky. He said, well, Vicki, is your painting about the sky? Then paint it first. If your painting is about the buildings, paint the sky last. And it's secondary to what's going on. So I remembered that. That's my Connecticut accent. Did you like that? Thank you, Joycey. Elaine, Charles Reed, R-E-I-D. Thank you, Elaine. It's all about practice. It's about repetition. It's about doing it over and over and over. That's all it takes. And that's probably why I paint in oil, acrylic, soft pastel, watercolor, you name it, I've painted in it. And the reason is because I get bored with the repetition over and over and over. And that's what it takes. And I know that's what it takes. It's like practicing cursive when you were in school. Your first cursive alphabet looked like crapola. And how many times did you have to fill that page with A's, capital A's, to get it right? And you copied that chart that was up over the chalkboard, and you copied it and copied it and copied it. And then 6 months, 8 months later, the capital A there, you began to make it your own. It started to not look so much like the one on the board. It was still a capital A, but it was just enough different that it was yours. And that's the same thing here. The more you do it, I can copy Zorn's, I can copy Carol Cooper, I can copy Charles, and I can copy them, fill books worth of copies. And at the end, I will begin to see something else emerge, and it will have parts of all three of the people that I was studying, and it'll be mine. And then I will have the eye-hand coordination to be able to do mine automatically, like I know they did theirs automatically. I mean, this figure right here was just automatic for him. And he may have been watching some dancers in the square with their brightly colored clothes. Mine are all brown. He may have painted it from life, but it was his interpretation of what life was. Yes. You got any questions? Patty, you can catch the replay. I hope it's worth it. I'm doing this because Artsy Wannabe Nancy asked me to. So if any of you have anything you have questions about, or you would like to see me talk about more, just let me know. Like, you can find me. Believe me, I am all over the web. You can even find my phone number if you want. But I do take requests. Anybody else? I do know that my colors are a little bit too strong. I didn't mix them good enough. Let's play a little bit more while I'm here. Picked up that brush again. I don't want it. Had to have those. What else have I got over here? I have my little squirrel. This is silver, size 00. Another thing I just had to have. Let's see if we do any better. Water, and then paint. My God, talking about my guy. Remember to take lift your brush off the paper as few times as you possibly can. And if you catch yourself doing this to fill a space, you're wearing yourself out. No reason why girls can't wear their Carol hat. I don't like that. Look how that brush is doing. Can you see that? Slow down, nobody's gonna take it away from me. I gave him a horn. I started out with a cow, thinking I was going to do a cow. Those are big old ears. Big old ears. Let's see. Got too much water. Thought maybe I might be able to do it better if I did the man first. Draw a triangle in here. Bring that down to his neck, his chest. And then over here we have his butt, tail, place for the leg. And then we have a flank. And we have another flank. Jane Davenport says to do, of course, this is for illustration for girls, but she says do 2 triangles that join in the middle, or 2 heart shapes, I'm sorry, heart shape, which is perfect for girls. May not be that bad an idea for boys. Another carrot shape there. Carrot shape there. Fill out his torso just a hair. There's my horse, of course, of course. If you were painting a big quarter sheet, half sheet, full sheet watercolor, and you needed characters in it, you make that just a little bit smaller. This is perfectly good enough. I'm not happy with this silver. Silver beady brush. This is slick. I need to put those in a different bucket. I thought I had a real small Chinese. I got a new, came in one of my, because I certainly am not buying any more brushes. This is a Princeton Brown Aqua Elite. I was in art snacks for the longest time. Always got different little brushes and black pens and stuff like that, markers. Okay. triangle shape, carrot shape for the head. There's an ear. Put my brush down, don't pick it up. Like, put. There's my man shape. If anybody's horse riders, this is kind of a square shape. And his tail. Then we have a flank, another carrot shape. And this comes down like that. Now you tell me that's a bad horse. This is what I mean by doing it over and over. Cheated myself out of enough room. So it's some combination of the two that I need to practice. I don't know, this is probably Aqua Elite. Anybody know offhand if it's all synthetic? Another triangle. I'm already improving with that. It's still goofy looking, but oh well. Oh, Secretly Hubby. I'm sorry, CB. I'm about ready to cook off too. I get tired. Hey, Joey. Are you new? If you are, be sure and subscribe. My tongue is dry. Subscribe and hit the notification button. I'm on twice a week. Thank you, Elaine. I'm glad you like that. Jacqueline, I take requests from the plate. Yeah, thanks. Beck. Okay, guys, it's about past my bewitching time. I don't know how y'all stay on for 3 and 4 hours. I may work on this some more. over and over and over and over and over, and then we'll show it to you on Thursday. Okay. Bye. Love you. Thanks for joining me.